The routine was set. Jonathan met the Tiophianiar every day, save for Sunday, to practice magic and practice arms. First, I want you to simply practice calling each element. Then I will make it second nature for you by having you practice on targets. Then I will set you up doing jobs around the village. You will also drill in the basic combat of your ancestors, though I fear I am not skilled enough to teach you all of it. My hand-to-hand is fairly basic. I will give you time to do as you like, and we can arrange time for you to visit home. This way, you can have time to spend with your family and enjoy the comforts of home that cannot be given here. Also, as Tiophianiar, I want you skilled in the 3 magic disciplines. For now, I want you to focus on joy and fury. Neutral will come more easily when you learn to control your emotions. Now, let us begin. The Tiophianiar had Jonathan take a stance, left foot forward, right foot back. The first element we shall work on is air. Set yourself as if you are prepared for a fist fight. Good. Now move your hands in opposing circles like this. He moved the ends of his hands around so that they made a small circle in between, then came back to rest at their original position. Remember, the more focus you put into it, the better the result. The motion of your body, your memories of joy, even vocalizing the desired result can help your focus. Vocalization can be especially useful when trying to achieve a more potent outcome. Jonathan moved his hands in a circular motion, his eyes filling with a green light. He mouthed under his breath as he focused. Ball of air, ball of air. After a few seconds, he could feel the gusts coming from his right fist, as if air was flowing from it in all directions. Durin lifted a pile of grass blades from the ground and threw it over Jonathan's hand. The blades lifted and whirled on the edge of his fist. Jonathan looked on in awe, but his concentration broke and the blades fell away. Good work. Now we will work with an element you can see. I want you to try to call the water from the barrel to your hand. Swirl your hand and focus on the water rising from the barrel. Remember your stance and mindset. Jonathan followed the instructions, twirling his hand and focusing. After a bit, a small stream of water rose from the barrel. A victorious grin crossed his features. The water fell back into the barrel. Water can be manipulated into its other forms. Our Tiophianiars, the equivalent of police, use balls of ice to subdue uncooperative criminals. With this, the Tiophianiar swirled his hand. Water began to form at the end of his fist till a softball-sized orb sat there. Though more difficult and time-consuming, you can draw water particles from the air, and even manipulate water within other beings, though we banned that practice due to its violent and morbid nature. Just be mindful that in a situation where fire has been used, often the air will be fairly dry. The difficulty also changes depending on the environment. Then it is a matter of focusing on the particles becoming close together. He looked at the orb, then after a few seconds it hardened. The Tiophianiar turned towards the targets and launched the ball. It smashed into a target, causing it to shudder. Jonathan grimaced. Couldn't that kill someone? He asked. Maybe crack a rib or fracture a skull in a worse case, he said. You must remember, the Tiophianiaran are a hardy people, and can take a lot of physical abuse. In some cases, we use air to try to simply stun them. In a worst case scenario, we will use the other elements to stop someone for good. You keep referring to elemental magic. Is there other forms? Well, you have seen healing and shapeshifting. Most people can shapeshift for a short time into animals, and in rarer cases, can learn to turn into everyday objects. Besides these, there are many forms of magic. They fall under 2 categories, ceremonial and natural. Natural magics are what I have shown you. Anything requiring you to draw on the mana within yourself without needing to amplify the effect, like elemental. He moved his hand in a circle, gathering a ball of water on his fist, then let it drop. or spirit magic. He took in a sharp breath, then aimed his hand towards the target. 3 green orbs flashed from his hand. Their passage through the air caused it to shimmer like a heat haze. They made a long, drawn-out, deep sighing sound. They hit the target and burst into green clouds. The clouds dissipated quickly. Though, that one takes a lot of mana to use, and much training. Then, ceremonial magic requires prep work. Candle magic, potions, rituals, and such. These come from Earthland. But, that's just a bunch of nonsense, right? Jonathan asked. Not necessarily, Durham replied. In fact, some of your modern science came from the magic of old. Modern Europe got it from the Greeks, who got it from the Egyptians, who got it from the Babylonians. It would not surprise me if the Babylonians got it from another civilization before. They worshipped many gods and took on many beliefs. A good example of magic birthing science is alchemy. People believed they could change one element into another. This birthed chemistry. Remember this: magic is magic until proven science. Jonathan nodded, allowing that information to sink in. Now, let us continue. The Tiophianiar had Jonathan continue for another 10 minutes until a burning ache started to form in his lower abdomen. He grunted in pain and Durham called a halt. Are you feeling all right? He asked with concern. There's just this pain in my gut, Jonathan responded. How stupid of me to forget. That will be your appendix. What do you mean by that? You see, humans have puzzled over the function of the appendix for years. As it is attached to the gastrointestinal tract, they have assumed it once had function in helping digest the food of a more primitive diet. It does have to do with digestion. The appendix processes the mana within the food we eat. It then stores that mana for later use. Excess mana is then moved throughout the body. Also, the appendix is the organ used to channel mana within your body. Think of it like a magic muscle. The more you exercise it, the more it will burn and ache. At the same time, you make it stronger, making your spells more potent. This also allows for you to cast spells for longer. Jonathan stored that information away. While you rest your appendix, we will go on to hand combat. With that said, he bent down and scooped up the 2 practice swords. As I said before, I am only versed in the basic principles of hand-to-hand combat. This should be enough to help you get started, however. Reversing one of the drill weapons, he preferred the grip to Jonathan, who took it in his right hand. Now, I want you to follow my instructions. We will try this in the fashion of the Norsemen. I never had the pleasure of meeting a true Norse, but from my comprehension, it was fairly simplistic. On the ground was a shield made of wood. It was roughly 3 feet in diameter. He picked it up and helped Jonathan strap it onto his left arm. Look at me and take your stance. Keep the shield up high. The top should be covering your neck without obstructing your vision. Turning towards his mentor, Jonathan planted his feet in the same position as he had practiced in. He lifted the shield in front of him, careful to cover his neck. Very good. Now lift your sword, pointing the blade up and towards me. Following the instructions, the sword was lifted up and out. Good. The first lesson I want you to learn is this. The primary function of a sword is offense, just as the primary function of the shield is defense. However, in the right situation, a shield may become a weapon, and a weapon a shield. Picking up his own drill weapons, Durham got into position across from him. You must be swift and unpredictable, while at the same time maintaining your defensive posture. Your swing should be short and swift. Overextend a cut, and you risk exposing your arm and upper right half to a riposte. The sword should always be ready to block, waiting for any opening an opponent might leave. He swung the drill blade in different directions, diagonal, horizontal, and vertically. A still blade is unproductive, he continued. Another part of this technique was sidestepping. He began to move left and right, always keeping his shield facing Jonathan. A sidestep is to try to aid in getting behind an enemy's guard. They have to follow your movements for the best coverage. When doing this, keep your sword moving, but always ready to defend. Look for an opening, and when that opening comes... He suddenly darted forward, stabbing into Jonathan's shield. Unprepared, the apprentice staggered back a pace. Remember this as well, Durin added. In a life or death situation, there is no such thing as cheating. So aim for the head, legs, arm, or whatever other thing you can hit. Just make sure to keep your own defenses in mind. One careless act, and you are dead. To emphasize this point, Durin moved the practice sword so the wood tapped the side of the boy's neck. Belatedly, Jonathan realized he had let his shield drop. He hefted it back to cover his neck, the weight already becoming apparent on his arm. Durin had him practice his swordplay for another 30 minutes. Then as Jonathan's appendix began to feel rested, he had him drill again in his magic disciplines. As he practiced, Durin took note of his progress. After a while longer, Durin halted him, giving him an appraising look. A student of joy magic in the making, I see. That should be enough practice for now. It is time for another important part of a warrior's training.
What's that? Jonathan asked.
Lunch.